Responsive menus are very important to focus on, especially when you know you're going to be packaging to different screen sizes and resolutions. Now, if you're building to PC, your players and users may be utilizing any resolution kind of screen that they want. They could be using an ultra-wide screen, they could be using a TV screen, they could be utilizing a 4K screen, they could be utilizing a vertical screen. And you're not going to know what that end aspect ratio and resolution size are going to be. So it's very important to create menus that are responsive and able to handle different screen sizes, resolutions, and aspect ratios. Now in this lesson we're going to be in the Advanced Widget Rendering Responsive UI Responsive level. When we press play, you can see that we have some different UI elements. We have on the top left an item types with some different items up here. On the bottom left we have maybe a mock-up for a HUD for your health and different survival icons. And on the right here we have a mock-up inventory that you could scroll through. Now if we go to the UI menu, you can see that there's just one widget here. Let's open it up. And here we can see the menu that we've created. So responsive UI is really going to come down to the panels that you're utilizing and how you're putting them together. So you can see when I drag around the arrows here that as I drag them around, everything scales appropriately. So no matter what aspect ratio or resolution or size, everything's visible, everything is centered the way that I want it to be, and everything is scaling depending on what the size is. Nothing disappears. Even if I went to some weird, crazy aspect ratio like this, you can see everything still scales appropriately by utilizing the correct panel types. So if we go to the top level root here, we have a simple canvas panel, and then next I'm utilizing a grid panel with two columns that are taking up half of the screen each in a single row, and that's just going to allow me to split the screen into this left side and this right side. Then we have another grid panel on the left side that's going to be splitting up the top and bottom. Now, grid panels are great to utilize when you're wanting to just split up the screen arbitrarily to section off different parts of the screen. So you can see we have a canvas panel first off that's filling all, and then under that we have a scale box. Scale boxes are very useful when you're creating responsive UIs because they're going to scale everything automatically depending on the settings that you pick for it. So everything under this scale box now is going to be scaled appropriately. As you can see, it scales everything and keeps it all lined up correctly. And then under the scale box we have a vertical box with a spacer on the top, a header, another spacer, and then all these buttons in a horizontal box underneath. And then the horizontal box is going to utilize the fill to put all of these different icons in here. Now by utilizing these different panels, we've now created this responsive UI. The scale box helps it scale accordingly, the horizontal box keeps everything spaced appropriately, and the vertical box is keeping everything vertically spaced correctly. Now in this section we're pretty much utilizing the same exact tools. We start with a canvas panel that's filling all. Then we have a scale box that is scaling everything as we move it around. Another canvas panel that's taking up this bottom part of the screen and the left. Then we have a horizontal box that has both the left image, a spacer between, and then the right image, which contains a vertical box and has all the different images. Again, this vertical box is helping everything to space out. The horizontal box is keeping everything to the left. So if you tried to use a canvas panel here, you could get it laid out correctly, but everything's not going to just scooch to the left as far as it can go. It's all going to be arbitrarily set to an exact amount. But in this case, because we have it set up with vertical and horizontal boxes, everything is going to stay left aligned. And then finally we have this inventory section, which we're again have a canvas panel that's filling all. Then we have a background image, which is this white section, because we want to fill all this area with this white background to separate it from the rest of the screen. And on top of that, we have a scale box. In the scale box, we have a canvas panel that is centered and then filling all top to bottom. Then we have a vertical box, which is going to hold the menu itself. And that one is set to center top aligned. Within that vertical box, we have our different elements. We have our header element. We have a line to separate the header from the inventory items themselves. And then we have the scroll box, which is going to contain all the inventory items. And each of these is just a duplicated horizontal box with all the information we want in it. Got a spacer, a text, a spacer, a text, a spacer, a text, a spacer. And because we've set things up this way, you can see no matter what I set the scale to, it's going to set this to be responsive. Now, these different panels can get very complicated depending on what you're trying to accomplish, and it can take some time sometimes to lay them out the way that you're wanting them to. I would suggest to you that it is a very good use of your time to make sure that you have your panels laid out in the best way they can be laid out, that nothing is set arbitrarily to a specific screen position unless you know exactly what that resolution and aspect ratio are going to be for the screen. If you don't, then you risk your users not being able to see certain elements, things falling off the page, things overlapping, and that is not going to be a very good experience for your users.